Welcome, everybody, to the Raad Life, the only talk radio show that takes you along with host and age explorer Rod Gantoos on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older. The Raad Life is brought to you this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Rod Gantoos.
It's Tuesday. No, you don't. You didn't miss Christmas. It's still tomorrow.
Come on, where is it?
No, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. It's the 25th. Today is the 24th. Happy Christmas Eve, everybody. We are doing, as I had said before, this morning and last week, we are doing a sort of, I would call it a special edition of the Raad Life. It's the last show of the year.
Last show of the decade.
Last show of the decade, both on OC Talk Radio and for the Raad Life. And, since tomorrow, I don't know what Paul is doing. I think he started drinking before I got here.
I think so.
But since tomorrow's Christmas, we weren't going to be in the office. I thought I'd let Paul have the day off. What are you doing exactly? You got crackling fire now going on?
Fire,
okay, we got crackling fire, and we got some
crackling mountain campfire
some
with
rye. Yeah, it's starting to sound actually. Hey, did you rake the forests?
Yeah.
Because it's sounding like it's a wildfire, not a little crackling fire. Anyway,
a little wind.
So again, let's start again. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you're all safe around family. I wanted to just kind of wrap up the year. We've been doing this show for about 5 years.
See if you like this any better.
Come. I mean, I don't know what he's doing over there. Anyway, we're just going to ignore him like we usually do. I'm putting him in the hot seat, by the way.
I'm going to come out of the shadows.
So
okay.
Since I am feeding it also on my Facebook live on my own feed, I cannot basically communicate with you guys because the phone is like more than an arm's length away from me. So if you wouldn't mind, please use the phone for something else. You know, like the old traditional thing, like make a call.
What?
So please pick up the phone and call in while we're on the air. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your feedback on either show, if you've been a guest on the show this year, how your experience was, what are some of the thoughts you may have. I really want to just kind of reflect on 2019, but also on the decade, since we are going into a new decade.
Really.
Literally, what happened to the last 10 years? And what are some lessons you've learned? What are some things you're going to take into the new decade? I'm going to share some of my own stuff. You know, what are some of the things you want to leave behind? Are you better today? You know, I'm going to sound like a political ad here. Are you better today than you were 10 years ago? And I want you to guys pick up the phone and call in, okay? I love talking to Paul, but man, it gets tiring after a while, so I need some new blood. So call us at 949
330-7761.
See, after 5 years, I remember the number. 949-330-7761.
Yes.
Give us a call. I want to hear from you. And let me know what you think of the year.
We got the fire crackling.
Yeah.
That's what that sound is. That's a crackling fire.
Yeah, and that's I promise, no forests were hurt in the making of that sound effect, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but let's just, I've been kind of reflective. I think everybody is sort of reflective at this time of year. I don't know if Paul is reflective ever, but, everybody kind of tends to get a little bit more emotional, a little bit more reflective this time of year. I don't know whether it's because it's an end of year thing. I mean, it's not really. We still got 7 days, right? We still got like a week, okay? And the fact that Christmas is in the middle of the week kind of seems a little strange too, like we're not even the weekend yet. But for some reason, everybody has this shared experience. We all get together and try to basically find bonding time together, strength from one another. We reflect on some of the things that we've experienced or gone through, challenges. I think part of it also we kind of probably weed through things. Like we do some house cleaning. I found myself cleaning out a whole bunch of stuff from the cabin in Big Bear that we've had since '91, and I got to tell you, that's the first cleaning I've ever done in that cabin since 1991.
Wow, like my studio.
Now your studio I'm not touching. Okay. By the way, yes, we are drinking on there, but it's. Why don't you come join me over here?
Over there?
Yeah, come sit over here.
I'm like,
come to the adults table.
You're too young to remember
come
the
to the
Soupy Sales show. When I was a kid, the Soupy Sales show, and they always had a character.
Who are you
right
kidding?
back.
You were never a kid.
white fang, and this white fanged creature would always come.
Wait, you
Rah, rah, rah,
wait,
rah,
wait. So White Fang, get over here. Come on, White Fang, get over here. Switch out your headsets.
All right.
Okay, but you know, do you do that? I mean, I find myself doing that, but I don't really do resolutions. Like I don't do New Year's resolutions. There's Paul. See, it's not just a voice. There's a person behind the voice. Okay, Mr. Paul Roberts, ladies and gentlemen, the man who keeps the magic going at OC Talk Radio. So. And who was foolish enough to give me a radio show 5 years ago.
Ooh, I like this over here. I may never go back.
You like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is good here.
This is kind of cool. You get to see things. You're on the light, everything. Wow, it's a whole different
You
perspective.
just let me know when you're ready for me to come back in. Okay, so do you do New Year's resolutions? I don't do New Year's resolutions.
I don't do New Year's resolutions, but my late great father thought this was the time of year, and it was really kind of a point, kind of a sore point with me. He wanted to really examine the year. He would always do it in a negative fashion. So what do you think you screwed up this year? What are you going to do better next year? It was always about, what went wrong.
Wait. So he was reflecting on the year.
Yeah.
Your year.
Usually my year. Yeah. Never
Not his.
Never his. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, that's called deflection. It seems to be rampant in DC.
But
these days.
he thought this was a time for reflection and to look back. And I thought it kind of brought me down. It was kind of a negative thing every year. I didn't look forward to it. I mean, I understand looking back and trying to figure out what went right, what went wrong, what you're going to do better. But I don't know. I didn't care for that at all.
Well, and I think you and I probably are somewhat at our core. I hate to put it this way, contrarian.
Oh, completely.
Right.
Completely.
Yeah. So actually, let's get a little personal here. People know about your voice, but what month? I don't even know when you were born. What month of the year were you born?
I was. You really want to open up an ugly can of worms here. I have.
It's just one out of 12, man.
I have one of the worst birthdays on the planet. Not Christmas Day. That would be the worst. I was born on January 9th, 1956.
Why is that the worst?
Because when you grow up in the Midwest.
Groundhog Day. I mean, what is it?
First, you get Thanksgiving. Yippee! It was always a good day.
Yeah.
Then Christmas, always a great day.
Yeah.
New Year's, and now the worst month of the year.
Are you still hungover a week and a half?
It's dark. It's the one month the sun doesn't come out back in the Midwest. It's miserable. People are burned out. They've had it. Went through the holidays. And I'd say, it's my birthday. They'd go, yeah, happy birthday. Yeah. Even my parents, I found out later, would just take a Christmas present and stick it in the closet. They couldn't even go out and buy a special gift for the birthday. I never had a party.
So they got your gifts the day after Christmas, like the sales.
Pretty much, yeah. And it was
re-gifting for Paul.
So anybody who my wife is groaning if she would hear this, or my daughter, anybody. I have groaned and moaned about my birthday my whole life, and you'd think somebody would do something about it. My family's never. They're always because they're tired. The holidays are over, and now we got one more. Yippee! Okay, here's your present.
So it's an afterthought. It's let's just get this thing done with.
And in the Midwest, it's an ugly period. January is the ugliest month of the year. Everybody's depressed. The snow's dirty. The holiday's over. It's cold. It's miserable. The sun doesn't come out.
So you're a Capricorn.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't believe in any of that stuff. But,
you don't?
No.
You fool.
Well, I always say I was born on the same day as Richard Nixon and Joan Baez. That proves astrology must be correct because you can't think of one without the other. And Elvis was born on the 8th. So Elvis, Richard Nixon, and Joan Baez.
And you're thrown in there in the middle.
I'm on the 9th. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think there is not necessarily, not that I hold a lot of truth into astrology, but I think there is some characteristics, and I don't know whether it's the chicken or the egg, whether we start as we grow up, we start adapting to these things that supposedly are historical, are astrological characteristics.
I don't believe in any of that. I really don't.
Okay, all right. You don't believe in any of that.
I had a professor in college. There's another obscure fact. I studied Latin for many years. There's a good, useful thing I studied for years. I studied Latin. And
good Irish boy.
Good Irish boy, right. And one of my Latin classics professors used to say, how could anybody believe in astrology? It was created by the ancient Babylonians and it's based on the theory that the earth is the center of the universe. Other than that little minor fact, I'm sure they got the rest of it right.
So interesting, because it does relate. Now I'm going to just share. I'm going to share with you a personal thing in a minute, but then I just want to, while we're on this topic.
Yes.
It goes to show you just how much we want to basically hold on to something as a guidance.
Oh, well, yeah, we want
Right,
something.
we're constantly looking for answers.
Right.
And
I'm
so
an Irish
and
Catholic on top of that, so
Yeah, well,
the world
you're-
is spelled out.
right, and you don't believe it, and you're in conflict with yourself and anything that you've been told.
Right.
And so that's why I refer to him as a recovering Catholic.
No, I'm the real deal. I still go to church, and I'm going to go to church tonight. Tonight's Christmas Eve. I'm going to go to church tonight.
Good for you. I mean, but again, religion is a seeking of answers. It's a seeking of guidance.
But you know why
Astrology,
that
same
works?
way.
Because I am the only. I went to Catholic.
Oh, this is where the
schools.
ego comes in again.
No, this is where the contrarian comes in. I am the only one in my extended family, all my friends, everybody I knew that went to Catholic high school or Catholic schools with, everybody, except my wife, we are the only two practicing Catholics I know left in the planet Earth.
Now, are you doing it because you are?
So that is a contrarian act.
Like spiritual, or is it you're doing it because you want to be contrarian?
I want to be contrarian.
Yeah,
no, I
so-
do. I do.
Okay,
On a serious note, I find I understand why people don't go. It can be miserable. It can be hard. It can be boring.
Well-
I understand all the problems Catholic Church has had. Believe me, but I still say it's like what's going on in America. I don't quit being an American because I disagree strongly with what's going on in the country or with the president or somebody else.
And it's hard some days not to do that,
I agree, but so I
whether
feel,
it's the president or other things.
right. Whatever your position, there are times you're going to disagree with the people in power. You're going to disagree with the policies of the organization you belong to.
Have you been watching some of the recaps on the Watergate stuff on CNN with Nixon? And it's fascinating.
They have that thing on CNN that they're actually doing Tricky Dick.
Yeah, on CNN. Unlike you, who was around and here and kind of maybe has a personal first-degree separation to a memory, I didn't. I heard just some of the sound bites.
Right.
Watergate,
Right.
right? But I wasn't even here, right? So
Oh,
I
okay.
never really got it. I find it fascinating that if you were to change the names of the people and the specificity of things that happened, you could draw parallels from everything from the action and the motivation and actually how it is being addressed by both sides right now. Like you could literally, the spirit of the...
Except for one thing, and they point this out all the time. The reason Nixon, believe me, Nixon didn't want to go, and Nixon tried to cover it up every bit as much, or maybe even more than Trump did. But what finally changed the game was there were a group of Republicans who placed country over party,
I
and they stepped up and said,
I
"You gotta
understand
go."
that, Paul, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about just watch the parallels between, like, when something becomes known, and then how it plays out, and how basically the president is standing there and denying everything, and then he basically has a bit of a collapse and ends up at Walter Reed for a while, and then basically is released from the hospital. Like, I didn't know that, right? It was almost like...
Well, it's got to be incredibly stressful. to go
but
through
being
this, right?
also sort of sequestered and away from the news, right? And then having things like his daughter getting married, okay, and having that as being sort of a distraction to what was going on a little bit. There's all this,
And what you
there's
don't
all this,
recall because
there's all this performance, there's all this activity, and if you just take away the specificities and look at it in parallel path, it astounds me how common a connection I can see.
I'll give you another one that's strange. Trump is arguably the most popular president within his party, not within the country, but within his party. No president has ever scored regularly 80, 90% popularity within his party for a prolonged period of time, even Nixon or anybody.
Right.
But that being said, Nixon had the largest, I think it was the largest electoral landslide ever because he
was.
beat McGovern, and McGovern only won one state, I think, maybe two.
But and people are like, well, why are we talking about politics on this sort of end of year wrap up? Well, I don't think you can talk about 2019, regardless of where you stand on this issue, without accepting the fact that we are very polarized, that we have become the sort of factionized, weaponized. Politics has become weaponized. Other things have been become weaponized. And the reason I only touch on this, and Paul gets on his platform every once in a while with it, and I'm trying to avoid doing that here, is that this is part of also the stress. This is part of the constant, endless we are on.
We had somebody we get pitched all the time on the radio station here. People want to submit guests, mostly PR people. Here's a topic you want to talk about. This one guy submitted a show to us, and I thought, wow, this says it all. It's some psychologist who claims that post-traumatic stress disorder has spiked dramatically over the last couple of years, and it's directly attributable to the rise in partisan politics. People are just more freaked out.
But I think partisan politics is not the source cause. I think it is just one more reflection of society as a whole.
Well, I'll give you one other.
Well, hold on,
All
sorry,
right.
Paul. Okay, because I really don't want to go down the path of
No.
politics on this, right? The point is this: we live in a society that is constantly on. We are constantly on. Every year, it is more and more on. We are. There was a book that was written in the 90s called "Living at the Speed of Light,"
Yeah.
and it was prior to the internet. Okay, and that
Prior
it
to the
was
internet,
just the
yeah.
internet. It was just like it was. I think it was we were still bulletin boards. Maybe AOL was just starting, and it was a book called "Living at the Speed of Light." Go look it up. A lot of the predictions in that book actually came true. And living at the speed of light, you know, there's a positive aspect of it, but there's also the stress and cost that comes along with it. And if you really think about 10 years ago, can you even think back 10 years ago? Do you remember what was going on with you 10 years ago? I mean, that's 2010. Do you remember?
Well, that's when we started the station.
Okay,
so I do remember that.
so there was something going on prior to you that caused you to start the station, right?
Right.
Okay. Do you remember that was the year that we had the whole disaster in Haiti? That was the year that we had the oil spill in the Gulf?
No.
That was the year that we were actually like scaling down the troops in Iraq? Okay?
Seems so long ago.
Right. I mean if you stop for a minute and actually reflect on your own personal life, where you are, and what's ironic is now it's even easier due to technology. Do you know that the year that the internet spiked, like when it first hit its height, zenith, was 2010?
Wow.
Prior to that, I mean, people forget that go back to 2000, there was no such thing as Facebook, Instagram, or whatever.
Well, we were trying to
Facebook-
create this idea called podcasting. We were in the wilderness. Nobody even knew what it was.
Facebook warded off being bought out in 2010.
I don't
Okay,
remember that.
right? Yeah, exactly. So go back and reflect on this.
So
and,
two trends I'm gonna mark the decade with. One is the birth of social media.
That wasn't in 2010.
I know, but
It became
the last decade
a
was when-
staple and more part of
Yeah.
everybody's lives.
The
Yeah.
last decade, social media really exploded, and it was. I know you don't want to dwell on politics, but I think this will be remembered as the decade of politics. I remember the 90s. In fact, I'll just make this one quick aside. I was watching something the other night, and they were talking about the Clinton impeachment because they're trying to compare the two. And that was the first time since Andrew Johnson that we'd had an impeachment in the 1860s. And so we went all the 100-some years, and we didn't do
You got
this.
30 seconds.
Okay. And somebody laughed, and he said, they were trying to say, I wish we could go back to the days of when they could work it out like they did, the impeachment trial. And everybody laughed on the panel. They said, we're going to say the 90s? We're going to dream of going back to the 90s? We thought that was the most partisan time we'd ever seen. We thought that was the most angry political environment. We didn't know it was going to get worse.
Well, but that is the same in everything. You could go back to 80 and basically say, what, we're going to go back to 70? That was da 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 da. The good old
Right.
the good old years, the good old days only is a nostalgic situation. People forget. You can't even remember what was going on 10 years ago. Okay? And here's what's interesting. Everybody who's on Facebook or social media gets reminded every day where they were in a certain number of years,
yeah,
right?
right.
Okay.
Because they pop it up
Go
and show you.
back, go back and look. You can do a search, okay? It's not that hard, and it's jarring, and it's reflective, and it may not be something you want to hear. Things may have changed dramatically in the 10 years for you on a personal level, on a career path. Some of it, a lot of it is hopefully more positive than it is negative, but there were lessons learned. There was knees scuffed along the way in 10 years, okay? And the point is this. Why is it that we deal with this stuff by just taking on the next challenge, hiding in the next to-do, okay? And I mentioned it on my...
You mean we don't resolve it? We just move on?
No. Our word that we don't do is that we don't reset. Our society says rest. And then what? Get off resting and get back into the grind. We
Right.
never reset, okay? Now, I understand that
What's the difference between a reset and a rest?
Oh, Thank you for setting me up.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I'm not sure I really know.
All right. So when you
A rest is a respite. You take a breather. You step back out of the. You step out of the fight.
Uh-huh.
The troops, they send them back to rest, and then they
put
bring
them back in there, right?
Put them back in the
okay,
line.
but let's use something very technical as a reference point. Okay. All right. I know for some, basically, they don't believe that the IBM, clones or, it's like the Android version. It's like if you wait, hold on, you're an IBM versus an Apple Mac. Oh, you're the equivalent of like a Samsung Android versus an iPhone, right? Today. So again, parallels, right? Just different devices, right? But do you remember? You do, because I see a lot of laptops in here too. Do you remember that it became almost a joke that whenever something happened on your computer, what did you do to solve a problem?
Something happened on your computer.
Computer stopped, froze, whatever. What did you do?
I threw it at the wall. No, I don't know.
You rebooted.
Oh, you rebooted. Yeah, okay.
Okay, you remember reboot? Do you remember?
I rebooted the other day.
Okay,
right?
yeah, right. But do you remember also defrag
Yeah.
and file cleanup? This
You had
cleanup?
to work harder to keep it
Right. So
going.
the two words I want to focus on for the rest of the show is this. Instead of rest, what if the word was reset? And what if it was we basically were allowed and gave ourselves permission to reset? To actually stop
So you're going
and
to have to
reset.
explain what the difference is.
Okay, well, I just told you. The machine that is you, the machine that is the computer,
Right.
if all you do is constantly use it, right? Constantly use it. You are dumping files that are temporary files on there. You are slowing down the system, right? It's getting sluggish.
It sure
Okay,
is.
all of this stuff, right? Okay. Now, if you basically simply turned it off or walked away from it and came back and sat at it and start working on it again, would it have gotten any faster? No. It's still where it
Well,
is.
how do you reset your body? I can't reset my...
Yes, you can,
How do I
because-
reset my brain?
You reset your brain the same way you would reset a computer.
Yeah.
You basically go in and you clean up literally the temporary files that are just dumped in your brain, that you dumped into your brain over the course of the last decade. The stuff that is just baggage that's been hanging in there that you will get to at one point and file.
Wouldn't it
Okay?
be like... I can't wipe that out like I can on a computer.
Sure
I
you
can't
can.
wipe out bad memories. I can't just go in and erase them.
No, but you can reframe them.
Reframe. Well, we did a show here a while ago. There's a very philosophical show called The Next Chapter, and he talks about making changes and whatnot. And
Yeah, but I'm not talking.
and he quoted the great Marcus Aurelius, because he's a what's that school of Latin thought I can't think of here. Anyway, Marcus Aurelius was one of them, and he always said, "You can't change what happens to you, but you can change how you react to it."
Right, but what is always missed in that sequence of verbiage is that you feel like you only have one chance when you are at that moment when something is happening to you, to either basically decide how to take it and frame it,
Right.
or not. And what I'm saying is, no, there is no one chance. The
You can
fact
always
that it
go back.
happened, you can always go back and reframe it. You can always go back and reset.
That's hard.
Okay? I know it's hard, but the alternative is that you are going to crash. The alternative is that you will become obsolete. The alternative is you'll get to a point where you're so inundated with stuff, because guess what's happening? Oh, wait, hold on. There's a new software that just came on, right? I know I'm using all this symbolically, but there's a new software that just came on, and that software is the one I want. And so I'm going to put it on this machine. I'm going to put it on a machine that's already strained. Because if I don't put it on this machine, then I don't feel like I'm achieving and accomplishing, and I'm not basically meeting my expectations of my
But this
capability.
is a show ostensibly about aging, and aging is all about feeling useless and obsolete and trying to reboot yourself or imagine yourself.
And you
because
did it, you
because
did it,
companies do view you as old.
You
and,
did it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right here.
Right.
Okay. Now I'm not saying that the motivation is one which is not the normal motivation. Normal motivation is, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling the dumps, I'm feeling challenged, I'm going to pull myself by my bootstraps, and all of a sudden there's innovation, and necessity is the mother of invention,
Right.
and here I am, and basically I break through. And I go, awesome. And what I'm saying is, maybe you could also do the same thing by consciously and accountably taking personal commitment to reset yourself.
So
And
let me,
to do that,
let me
to
ask
do
you an
that on
even
occasion.
harder question. The harder question I always wonder this time of year started with my father, who used to view this as a time of reflection and planning and new resolutions. Started by looking at what
You can
was
do all
bad.
the planning and reflections on New Year's resolutions. Hold on a second, Paul. That you want,
Right.
as long as you do not reset, all you're doing is building a new layer on the bad foundation.
Okay. I'm going to come back to that. But my question is even simpler than that. What is so magical about the turning of the page, and now the turning of the decade, that makes it seem even more
I will use
important?
a quote from if nobody's seen this, you've got about 7 days to binge on stuff on Netflix. There's a movie called The Two Popes.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I've,
It is actually very good. Now,
Right.
bear with me. I'm going to be a little spoiler, okay? Because you need to watch through where they're being very cute with their Latin and Spanish and German and Italian, because it's
'Cause this was
Ratzinger and Francis.
first time ever in the history of the church. Well, not the first time.
Yeah.
There were some back where there were anti-popes where they were both claimed to be popes, but first time a pope had ever resigned and not died in the office.
Right.
And therefore there were two of them
But
alive.
basically, it leads up to where they meet, and it's interesting because it's sort of like some of the old Greek theological exchanges and conversations, like Socrates, whatever. It's opposing
Socrates
points,
and Aristotle.
Yeah, it's
right.
opposing points of view happening in a form of a conversation. What do we say on this show? Why is this station basically here? Is so that we encourage having conversations. Because again, if you don't converse about whatever it is, if you've got something difficult to share with somebody, share it. Because if you don't share it, be fine, not find the right moment, but don't shy away from sharing it. It's not easy, I know, but the opposing aspect of if you don't share it is that it will become resentful. It becomes something that you basically
it
builds up,
Eats
and
away
then
from
it becomes damaging even
Right.
more so, right? So again, I encourage, as I've done for the last 5 years, have the conversations. Even if they're difficult conversations, it is the having of the conversations that is where the strength of this is.
And this time of year should be a time for reflection and conversations, but I find that, at least in the last 10 years,
Superficial,
raced,
raced.
get
Yeah.
it over with, got to do this, get out,
Right.
boom, boom,
and
boom,
and,
boom,
and
boom.
I'm not knocking the fact, you may be basically a product of a divorced family, and you basically are
Right.
you're trying to get in one
Families.
celebration with one set, and then
Right.
over the other, or you're trying to put everything in, especially if you're like me, where you're you're like sort of a bridge generation into my fellow brothers and sisters in the Gen Xers out there.
The lost generation.
The lost generation. We're not. We're a bridge generation. But basically, we're dealing with older parents, and we're dealing with
Yeah.
maybe with with in-laws, and we're needing to split our time. Right. Again, I understand it's difficult, but rather than have a momentary in passing conversation, you might for an hour, that is just small talk. You may want to take 5 minutes and really connect with somebody. And basically, you'll benefit from it, and so will they. But that's not what I was going to answer Paul's question. And
Right.
Paul's question was relevant to,
Reset versus reboot.
no,
Oh,
what's the point? How do you do it? All this stuff, right?
Right. How do you during this very, very stressful, very rushed, very racing around?
So we agreed that we are all in search for guidance, help. We do it all the time, but we try to schedule it in. It's like my life is so busy. I'm just going to get maybe between 3 and 5 on Wednesday, I can get a moment to myself with a cup of coffee and reflect on how my life should be.
Right.
Okay? It's one of the most important assets that you have. You only get to do it one time, right? And you're basically putting it on a side burner in terms of the reset and the file dump of anything that's not useful, and actually reconfiguration of
So
your system.
give us some tip on how to reset.
Hold on. So
I don't know how to reset.
One of the things that resonated with me out of watching the Two Popes thing
This is very good.
is that Ratzinger, Pope Ratzinger, is which I can't remember what he was, Pope something, but
Benedict.
But both
15th or 14th,
Benedict,
yeah.
Pope Benedict is talking to what was then the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, who then became Pope Francis, right?
Right.
And he's you give communion to people that have or sacrament to people that haven't had communion, all this stuff, right? And he and so obviously he is more of
Almost
the people,
more traditional, yeah.
more Jesuit in his thing for those
Very
who are
Jesuit,
clear,
yeah.
and the other one is very traditional, punitive almost.
The
in
Jesuits
his-
are always the thinkers
right.
in the church and the
and
radicals in the
and
church.
and it comes down to where they're talking about walls, like how the church has built walls around people, okay, separate people, and Pope Benedict says, "What's wrong with walls? Walls are strong, right?" And isn't that where you find God? And Pope Francis says to him,
Bob Francis.
Pope Francis says to him, "You find God on the journey." Right? It's not the destination. It's not a particular goal. It's the actual journey.
I'll give you a sort of like the same thing. We have another, since you want to get spiritual here, we have another show here. Go check it out, The Pilgrim on the 405. And he views himself as a pilgrim wandering the wilderness here in search of some truths and search of some insights. And what he doesn't tell most people is he's a retired Episcopalian priest. And I guess he's still an Episcopalian priest, but he's not assigned to a parish anymore. And Will Christ.
Well, I guess the 405 is his parish now.
Kind of, and he views that. It's the way he views it. He kind of wanders the world and does it. And he's also big into business. I don't know why a Episcopalian priest gets to have a second career in business as a sales trainer and doing some. It's a fascinating dichotomy. Anyway, so he was saying that one of the things he does now at his age, he's in his 70s, is he gets sent to parishes that are in trouble. And there's a parish up in Westwood, an Episcopalian parish. His name escapes me. A very affluent area. And the church is, I guess, I don't know if it's a secret or not, but its attendance is way down, and they're wondering what's up with this church up there. And so he said he was sent up, and he asked the question when he got there, so how do we get more people to come to this service here? How do we get people to engage with the church more and come to the church? And his question was, what would Jesus do? And I asked him, I said, maybe Jesus would just shut the door. Maybe we don't need physical buildings anymore. We don't need physical places to shop. We don't need physical places to connect and collect. Maybe we don't need a physical place to have. And he just looked at me like I was some kind of heathen or something, But we're going through some sort of transitional phase in a lot of things: politics, religion, whatnot.
Right.
And I don't know what's going to look like on the other side, but it's going to look different, and it may or may not.
So are we maintaining, or are we doing maintenance when we need to? See, it's like it goes back to that rest. Like have a staycation. Like you don't even have time to get away. You're actually just going to stay in your home,
right.
And you're going to binge on Netflix,
right?
Okay, and you're going to order Uber
I wish I could do
that. Whatever it is, DoorDash or whatever.
Right?
Okay,
Bring your food.
All right. The point is this, okay? Is this again is a time of year where we usually are more receptive and open to reflecting. Okay, some of us even will go as far as setting new resolutions for next year, right? And all I'm saying is I have been doing that, not setting resolutions, but I have been reflecting, and it's been a challenging year for me in a lot of ways.
We had the rector on the same point of St. Margaret's in here, another big Episcopalian church, and he did on one of our shows. This was really out there because we're a business channel mostly. Your show's challenging enough for our station. This guy did a show on the 4 weeks of Advent, because Advent is one of those, as a lifelong Catholic, I can't say I really understand or practice other than you light a candle every week and you're getting closer to Christmas. I know it's the coming of the Christ. It's the coming of Christmas, and you're supposed to somehow prepare. I never knew what to do with those 4 weeks other than you light little candles, and that was a meaningless ceremony that the church goes through. And he tried to add some meaning to it. And he said it's really a chance to go into the darkness, to go deep in your soul. He said it's the physically the darkest time of the year, and it's the darkest time of the church's year because we're hoping and praying that hope will come, salvation will come.
Well, and here's the thing. Everybody that's out there that's listening right now is saying, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to do that. I really do. I could use that. We've talked about solitude. On some of the shows that we did this year, we're trying to focus on the importance of solitude. And we had a couple of authors. Ken Clodoris and Javon that basically wrote the book The Captain. you know, and how basically the sort of the internal journey of awareness, right? And we hear this. We want to basically take a pill and have it happen in 2 minutes. You know, we want to basically read a book and basically, you know, can you just give me the Cliff Notes? I don't even know people will even know what Cliff Notes is.
Reflecting seems negative. That you started this. My father was into reflection. I took away. I was left the earth many years ago. But all I remember of that whole experience wasn't a positive one. It was a negative one. It was going back and digging up stuff. And maybe that's part. You have to look at the past to go forward.
Maybe because of the way your father chose to practice it.
Yeah.
Right? But I bet you, if you were to be honest and true with yourself, that you probably do a good amount of that. And it could be a range of genuine reflection.
I still do a ton of things, whether I agree or not, that he
genuine reflection. Yeah, I know. That's the worst. That's the number one, you know, like irony of the universe.
Yeah,
you become your father. You won't look at your mirror one day and something comes out of your mouth and you go, oh
my God. Right. I said I'd never do that.
Right. And I'm not just saying the guys. I think women probably have the same example. Right. But the thing about it is, you probably do that, and you probably do that in terms of self-beating, like you're a friggin', you know, Benedictine monk, probably, right? You know, beating yourself, right? Yeah. You know, you're probably
because that's the way it felt to me. Like you got to beat yourself up first.
You know, but that's part of your penance, right? Right. And so we all do this, and all I'm saying is, just like when you had to basically defrag a system, what was the most annoying thing about defragging a system, Paul?
I don't remember. I just would set it on some program. You had to wait. It took a while. Took a long time.
So there was no way around the time.
No, that's true.
Right, and the system was unavailable.
Yeah.
Right,
and they kept saying, "Don't stop.
Don't stop the defrag."
Yeah.
Okay. So people,
turn it off.
Don't stop the defrag. Okay. And there is no shortcut. Right. If you're going to take the time, you cannot schedule the time. You can schedule the beginning of the time.
How do you find the time?
Well, that is exactly my point of this whole conversation.
No,
but we're not talking about this holidays. We're talking about just in general. We're talking about looking back and reflecting on 10 years of being on this earth and living a life that has continued to be more and more impacted, more and more full of stuff.
Right.
Pressure on us to basically continue to perform and perform and perform. All the while, we are self-sabotaging, undermining ourselves, not necessarily being consistent, and impacted by outside forces and internal forces, people around us that are either supportive or not. All this stuff is going on. And we somehow think that we are supposed to do this endlessly. And we have told ourselves there is no other alternative. And I'm not saying abandon the whole
to rush and go and keep going.
Right. Yes. And I'm saying, okay, fine. I will respect the fact that we live in a faster society. I respect the fact that we live in a society that requires a stronger processor, a much more storage, cloud access, all of that stuff symbolically.
Right.
Okay? And our brain is the processor and everything is now bombarded on it. Okay? Well, I got to tell you something. It's not the fact that my brain is a 54-year-old brain versus somebody who's 20. Okay? The system is the system. And the system needs not just maintaining, but maintenance. It doesn't need just rest, step away, go binge for a couple hours on Netflix, because now put yourself in another zone and have a staycation for half a day and then be back at the office at 3 like you never left. Push the reset button. Give yourself permission to push the reset button. By resetting the system, you are not abandoned. You're not.
I don't even know what that would look like.
I think it's different for everybody.
I don't know what reset. I know what rest looks like.
But listen to what you're just saying, right?
Right.
You are very clear on how to reboot a piece of machinery.
Very clear.
And you're very clear on the benefits of why you need to do that, especially if it's older equipment. Okay, not picking on people that are older, but older equipment, right? I'm right there. Okay. Why is it so difficult to accept that that's what is beneficial and good for a piece of inanimate metal is actually also important for us?
Because I don't know how to wipe out memories, patterns, cobwebs, negative ways of thinking. I mean, you can't. Yeah,
I push
a button and all that goes away.
But you already know. No, it doesn't. It never really goes away. There's always a trace of it somewhere,
That's
and
true.
it all requires just somebody who's better at finding it, coming in and finding it, right? And anybody who's ever been busted with stuff on their computer knows that.
Yeah.
No, deleting your history on your browser doesn't get rid of it
was
off
all
your system,
gone.
right? So the thing about it is, I'm just proposing this idea.
You radical.
Okay, I'm just proposing this idea. I'm not telling you to abandon your drive. I'm not telling you to abandon your lofty goals of world domination.
What's happened to your computer there? Something rebooted on your phone there.
No, it says internal storage space is dangerously low. See? Perfect.
Right there.
Perfect, right? It's right there. So if you lost us on Facebook, I guess you're just gonna have to catch up with us on YouTube after we put this out. But the point is this: I'm not even gonna mess with it. See, this is exactly the point I'm trying to make.
It demands attention. It's
My
a baby crying for you.
my pocket computer that might as well be plugged into my cerebral cortex, right? Is demanding my attention.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm
warning you.
Guess what and it's a warning. Okay, so guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take life and live life on the razor's edge, and I'm gonna ignore it.
Oh.
Okay. Now I want to while I'm on the computer thing and electronics, right? Like we said 10 years ago, this is when the social media. And I'll just use that as an entry drug, basically, right? Because it's not just limited to social media. It's email checks.
Yeah, YouTube started in 2008,
Right.
I think.
But
iTunes in 2005.
Let's call it virtual living, okay?
Right.
So virtual living hit a high point. That was, in 2010. Here we are 10 years later, right? Now, if you remember, in 2010, everybody probably couldn't wait to get on social media, couldn't wait to start doing things. And then I don't even think 10 years ago we had such a word in the dictionary or lexicon called influencer.
No,
right.
That's why I don't think it's gotten less. I think some people have tuned it out and controlled a little bit, but the power of social media continues to grow.
Yet, what is one of the number one ads this holiday season?
The Peloton.
Nope.
No. That was the most controversial one. The guy gives his wife a Peloton,
Nope.
and she says, "Thank you."
Circle. Circle is a device that allows you to, via an app on your phone, ironic, okay, control and manage access to internet for every device in your home, whether you are in the house.
You mean you can turn them off?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So the funny thing about this is a couple of
thought
years
they go
ago, somebody came
24/7.
up with this idea, and I thought it was very cute, but they never produced it. I tried to buy one earlier this year and couldn't get one, right? It was a pepper mill. People remember what a pepper mill is?
Yeah.
Would you like some salt or on your
Grind the
pasta?
pepper,
Okay.
yeah.
So it was a pepper mill.
Right.
Right. This pepper mill was supposed to sit on the dining table, and basically you could turn it off and it would cause a disruptive, basically no signal access
It would
around the dinner table.
block the Wi-Fi.
Around the dinner table.
Right.
Right?
That would disrupt everybody.
Now, there is actually a device, and ironically, I mean, this is my designer hat on. It's called Circle or something like that, but it looks like a square with like just rounded corners, and like if it's a circle, why isn't it a circle? Right? Right? But I'm not going to dwell on that. Here's a brand consistency message to those who produced it.
Circle that's a square.
It can be a cube if it's a circle, right? It's a circle. It should be a sphere at least. Okay, you're pushing it. Otherwise, just make it the friggin' disc. Right? But
Got to be different.
But that's what it does. So in 10 years, we went from I can't get enough access to where my life is so impacted, I am desperate to take some control.
You told me, I quote this all the time, you told me one of them, because you design a lot of high-end spas for big hotels and fancy places. I didn't know that one of the most popular rooms that people will pay for
Silence.
is silence.
Yes,
Silent
people will
room.
pay to go to a spa and pay for silence.
That's how rare
If
it
you don't
is.
believe me, check with Jeremy McCarthy, okay, who is an amazing spa expert, okay, and Trent Monday is another guy. Check with them. People will pay for silence. In 10 years,
People have to pay to go somewhere
to be silent. Now, every mother out there who's dealing with kids will tell you, yes, please sign me up. Can I just get on a schedule, right, of repetitive treatments, right? But I mean, listen, I'm dealing with a client right now that basically asked me to sound insulate their master bedroom from the next bedroom over because that's where one of their childs are going to be. Not because the child is like some demon seed. It's because children are noisy, and
Right.
you know this couple are busy professionals that are constently under
But usually
probably a lot
worried.
of
I want to hear what they're saying.
pressure.
Are they? I want to hear if they fall, or I
No,
want to hear if they.
I mean,
doing something.
I urge you to take a minute in the next week and just going into the new decade, going into the next decade, 2020. Okay, ironically, when you go to a doctor, like an optometrist,
Eye doctor.
eye doctor. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, an eye doctor. Okay, and you ask them to check your vision. What is the best vision that you can have?
2020. I never thought. Wow, we're in 2020. We're in the best vision we could ever have this coming
We
year.
are entering into.
That's a powerful step. Nobody's ever made that connection before.
Okay.
2020. We're entering into perfect vision.
We're entering. So for those who don't believe in,
Coincidences.
well, astrology, whatever you want to call it, right?
Numerology.
There is a thing about the 9th year and the 10th year. There's a thing about cycles of 10 years.
Yeah, there is some decade. That's what I was saying. What is so
Right.
magic about decades?
But there is something about like you're in your year 1, your year 2. Now, that doesn't necessarily coincide with the numerical year number, but that everybody goes through the cycle of 10 years. And if you think about it and you think back, okay, and you take your life, you probably reference certain milestones in your life, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s. You never say
Yeah.
in my 23s,
No.
in my 37s, in my 42s.
You know what's interesting about that is two things. One, we all celebrate the decade birthdays bigger than anywhere else. 30, 40, 50,
Milestones.
60. Yeah, I'm going to be 64 this year. That doesn't seem like much of a milestone. You're 54. You're
I'm
a
going to be
decade behind.
55 in a 10 years. So
Okay.
does that mean I'm on my fifth
Doesn't
year
that
cycle?
doesn't seem like a big celebration, but when I hit 60 it was. I'm sure when I hit 70 it will be too. So something magic about that. And I find in my own life, and I've never understood this, I can only anticipate about a plus or minus 5-year cycle. I can remember back about 5 years, and I can only see ahead 3 or 4 or
Right.
5 years. I can't see ahead 20 years. I can't see ahead
Well,
10 years.
and whatever, you know, it's like
I
like,
do, it's not
well,
true.
Okay, but you know what forecasting is? It's backcasting. Okay, and I'm
Right.
saying this as a recovering economist, right?
Yeah, right.
But
You look at the last couple and you project forward.
Well, you hold every variable constant too.
Right.
That's the thing they don't tell you, right?
Right.
In order
Nothing's
for me to
gonna change.
forecast what's happening, I'm holding all these variables, which is unrealistic,
Right.
constant, and then I'm projecting this one thing.
Right.
Right? And it's not. And when I'm projecting, I'm basically using the trend pattern of the past to see where it could go.
That's why it never worked.
Right. So forecasting is backcasting.
Right.
Okay? So if anybody says, "Well, this is what's going to happen," you're like, "Okay, good luck," right? Unless you're a time traveler from the future, I'm not buying it, right? But
I got to interrupt for 1
Yeah.
second. We got to give a shout out to Sagamore Spirits, who was in here a while ago. They were on Angela Ponzi's show, Business Growth Cafe, and
it's very good.
Sagamore Spirits is from Maryland. I didn't. This is a rye whiskey, which is the way all whiskeys are once made, not with barley, but with rye. And I didn't know that there was a Maryland style whiskey.
Sure.
Until they came in here.
Okay, so
That's what we're drinking.
We're gonna-
courtesy of them, Sagamore.
we're going to do a little.
Spirits.
I want to do a little sort of tidbit.
Yes.
A
We
fact-
got to get
fa-
wrapped up because I got to
yeah.
go to church tonight.
Factoid. Okay. Well, you're getting religion here. Okay. But you know, here's a factoid, right? Did you know?
Yes.
No, you didn't.
No,
Did you know that there's a connection between the bourbon industry in the United States
bourbon
and
industry.
the Scottish the single malt Scot industry in Scotland?
Other than the fact that they both make whiskey, an American whiskey or Scottish whiskey, no, I don't know that there's much of it because they usually bash each other.
And yet you claim to be a good Irish boy that has a collection of all kinds of alcohol over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I found out that, well, first of all, do you know how bourbon came around?
All right, here's what I know about bourbon. People don't realize that bourbon is a form of Scotch. It's bourbon whiskey. Scotch whiskey, Irish whiskey, Canadian whiskey. Whiskey's a style that's of a distilled spirit made from a grain, usually barley. But when it came to America, and they made it in Bourbon County, Kentucky
But
originally.
they didn't make it out of barley.
No, they didn't make it out of barley. They made it out of corn.
Right. You know why?
No, and that's why most
because
hardcore whiskey drinkers, Scotch drinkers, Irish whiskey drinkers don't like bourbon because it's made not with barley but with corn.
Oh, well, they are a bunch of pretentious, you know what, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I can prove to you that they are pretentious, like hoity-toity, nose-in-the-air people. Okay, because they are absolutely dependent on the bourbon industry.
Why?
Okay, bourbon came around because that part of the country grew a lot of corn.
Yeah.
Okay, they needed
as did all the settlers, which they also grew rye a lot. Americans
Well,
grew rye in the early days.
Okay,
Yeah.
but they needed to
Different grains.
transport corn.
Okay.
The barges on the rivers were such that you could get more volume of corn transported if you did it in barrels versus if it was in bushels.
Makes sense.
So
But you
they
could
basi-
stack it probably. and everything.
So they basically distilled the corn down to a liquid, okay, and put it in barrels, okay, and that's how that whole thing started. Now, do you know why? If you look at a bottle of bourbon that says 5 years old, for example, and you look at a bottle of scotch that maybe says, let's say, 10, doesn't mean that the bottle of scotch is any better.
It's supposed to. That's what they want you to
No,
do. 10
because
years
because
it's rested
because,
and
because,
changed.
because the temperature ranges in the South.
Right.
It's from very high temperatures to very cold temperatures.
Right.
So the aging actually goes faster. Scotland does not have that kind of a range of temperature change. Right. And did you know that Scotch whiskey is aged in...
Bourbon, usually bourbon barrels, yeah.
Yes.
Right, or sherry, yeah.
Right. So you tell me
Because they want some of that
how
flavor.
fascinating that is, that the industry in the south of the United States actually has an export of barrels that they don't use to Scotland, and that the Scotch whiskey is aged in bourbon barrels.
Well, because corn is sweeter, and so bourbon has a sweeter
Yeah, but I
taste
mean,
to it.
you know that,
And
that
they
means,
want to pick up
that,
some of
that
that
means
flavor.
that means that there's been a historical connection between those two parts of the world.
But what they do before the American colonies were here, where they grew corn. I mean, the New World is where the Europeans discovered corn. Corn came from the Indians, right?
Yep.
And so they started bringing it back to the Old World. So for hundreds of years, they made Scottish whiskey or Irish whiskey.
That's a very good question. I don't know how far the relationship goes, but I was fascinated because I always thought that the two basically were isolated evolutions. And that basically, yes, they were the same kind of alcohol beverage, but that they basically were, had more.
Yeah, they're a brown distilled alcohol.
Right, and I
made
mean,
from grain.
and anybody who's drank Scotch, I mean, I prefer Jameson. I prefer
Good for
Irish.
you.
I prefer Irish whiskey to Scottish whiskey.
Good for you, lad.
Right, I do, and
It's softer. Well,
that's exactly
the
my
Scottish put harsher, and they love to use peat more, which gives it a smokier
well, the Scots
flavor.
are also a lot more, rugged, and so
Than the Irish. Oh.
Well, they charge you. They charge you more for the cloudy sphere ice cube at 10 pounds at the Montage in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's the Macallan bar, right?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, well, because it's supposedly from the branch of the river that the Macallan distilleries feed their water.
Do they really?
Yeah, they do.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
love to try it. I didn't know. Say that again. So if you
Okay,
go where?
so
you go to the
peop-
Montage.
okay, so here's a tidbit.
Gonna get a
for you.
little Scotch lesson.
Right.
Here today.
So Montage Hotel in Beverly Hills.
Famous hotel.
There is a speakeasy kind of behind the scenes. You got to know kind of the guy down at the front.
Really?
And they will take you up, and you'll go through
Like a private bar.
well, you'll go through it like a hotel guest room corridor, through a room that looks like sort of like a prep kitchen on that floor, and then through another door, and now you find yourself on a balcony overlooking the front porte cochere.
Really? I didn't know that.
That actually has a tiny bar, like an old school, very tiny bar, like a
Right.
stand-up bar almost, right?
Right.
And there's like darkish velvety colors and all this stuff
Yeah.
in there. All the drinks are served, okay, in Baccarat crystal.
Cool.
I think it's baccarat. I may be wrong, but it's all in crystal.
Or Rydell. But Rydell makes
No.
different glasses
Oh,
for every
no.
crystal.
This is like $300 tumblers,
Okay.
right? Okay. And they have everything, including like a commemorative bottle from like a royal wedding, right? And the thing about it is, you have also a choice of ice cubes. So you have the cube.
That's
just
the
water,
popular thing,
right,
the big giant cube.
And the reason is
multiple.
it doesn't melt so fast.
Right.
You also have the sphere,
Yes, right.
which is popular,
Right.
and then you have like the one that's just a cold stone. So there's no dilution
Right.
at
For
all.
a lot of whiskey, they do that.
No
right.
dilution.
Right.
But they also have this. They have a sphere that is not clear. Like their clear sphere actually has a laser monogrammed the logo of
Ice cube has
of
a
the
monogram
10,
on it?
10 grams,
Oh.
not on it, inside it.
How do they do that?
They lasered the inside. I don't know how they do it, but
So you look inside, and inside the giant hunk of ice,
it says 10 pounds. And why 10 pounds? Because 10 pounds, as in the currency, has imagery on it. And in
Right.
this particular 10 pounds, I don't know if it's Scottish pound or it's British pound or whatever, but the 10 pounds,
well, they use the same note.
well,
There is
but
no
I mean,
Scottish pound,
it's
right.
euro now, right? Or at least not after
No,
Brexit.
the British never converted to the euro. That was the only thing that they
Okay, so
became part of the European Union.
The point is,
kept their own
a
currency.
value of 10 pounds currency
Right.
has in it an imagery of the kettles at Macallan. Macallan being
One of the
premier companies
Yeah.
for Scotch. And so the kettle on Macallan is on a 10 pound. So therefore the restaurant or the little drink bar behind the scenes drink bar is called 10 pounds. You can look it up online. You can look it up on
go
Yelp.
there. We got to go there. Can you get us into this?
I probably can.
We got to
Okay,
go
all right.
there.
And so,
That's my bucket list for the new year.
Okay. All right.
I'm serious.
All right,
I'd
I'll
love
make
to
that
go.
happen.
I'd love to go
Okay,
there.
so the sphere, we
heard of
talked about the sphere. You guys have all seen the sphere with Scotch, right?
Right.
So they have a sphere that is milky, unclear water.
Right.
Not where it's got branches in it, but it looks like what the heck happened to this filter, right?
Right. Not filtered water.
That cube, that sphere of ice, costs more than every other sphere of ice.
Why?
Because it's water that is from the branch of the river.
Oh, come on.
That runs the water
You
into
don't
the
believe
distillery
that.
of Macallan.
They bring that water all the way over from Scotland?
Yes.
Just to make the ice
Now,
cube?
I believe it because if you're that kind of caliber luxury product hospitality, somebody's going to call you on it.
Yeah, right.
And if
That's true.
if it turns out that to be wrong, you're
in deep
doo-doo,
doo-doo,
right?
You can't just
Now,
pretend.
what I find most fascinating isn't the fact that the water is from the river. Okay? And this is where I'm not sure how the heck they do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I find fascinating is that anybody who basically has ever known a Scots person, somebody from Scotland,
Mm-hmm.
will know that, it's like the Scots actually pride themselves on being like Braveheart, half-face, blue painted, right?
Right.
Just like the Irish pride themselves on basically being rolled out of a bar, right? but sludge, right? So the fact
It's
that
cheers in Irish.
the fact that the water is rough,
Yeah.
looking,
That's
is what I find like that to me is the fascinating. That's the branding.
Did somebody pee in it? Or
this is Scottish
is
water.
That tough, right? Yeah.
This is Scottish water that's so tough it is not clear.
I got to go there. I had never heard
anywhere
that.
else, somebody serves you unclear ice
We
cubes.
started off on a deep, dark, negative reflection, deep dive. Now we've discovered something to live for. I got to go to this bar.
You know why?
Why?
Because we reset.
There you go. And we took the time.
And we took the time to
That's
reset.
that's the key. Isn't that the key today, that we don't have time to talk, time to connect, time to do any of this stuff here? Time to reset?
Yeah, and I mean, you asked me to do a show almost 5 years ago. It'll be February. It'll be 5 years. You asked me to do this show.
5 years. Wow.
Yeah, and
Half of the decade.
and yet it's half a decade.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully we'll have the same conversation 10 years from now. But maybe it'll be a different setting. Whatever. Maybe
The
know,
old folks
maybe
home.
maybe I'll look like the Nixon head in a jar from Futurama or something. But Paul asked me, for those who have heard this story before, give me some latitude here. I'm sorry, I'm drinking. But
We're drinking Sagamore Spirits, courtesy.
brought to you by Sagamore Spirits,
Yes.
unbeknownst to Sagamore Spirits.
Unbeknownst.
Right. But
They left the bottle when they were here.
yeah, so that's all it takes really for us to sponsor the show. Yeah, if you're interested, just show up with a bottle. You don't even have to say hi. Just leave it at the door.
Just leave
We're
it
good.
there. Exactly, and we'll plug you.
Well, yeah, you'll get plugged. So he asked me to do a show for 4.5 years, 4 and 3/4 years, 5 years ago. And I said yes. So the lesson I have taken out of the last 5 years of this decade is, and I have tried to share this with others, is say, why not? Say, I am open to receive. Say yes. I had conversations with some people last week, and I was trying to just convey some stuff to them, and I'm very respectful. I'm not going to push, people. But
Right.
I was fascinated because, and I was thankful, but I was sad at the same time. I was thankful that I was able to see that they were arguing for their own limitations.
Well, we all do.
I mean, I was thankful that I could see
We
it,
all-
and
we
I
all
was
argue
sad
to
that
stay within our boundaries,
and I was
yeah.
sad. I was sad to see them do it. Right. So, say yes. I had a chance to talk to a bunch of students from Cal State Fullerton, and thank you, Jay, who's the head of the Center for Excellence there, and Carlos Goiman, who basically introduced me to him. We had an opportunity to speak to students, and they're all wanting to hear about what's some entrepreneurship, kind of like guidance that you can
Right.
give us, right? And
The
what are
5
some
steps to
what are the 5
success.
steps to success, right? And I'm
Right.
like, wow, this reminds me of 1985 MBA, where $50,000 a year will buy me a lot of beer, that's a song, by the way, lyrics from a song. But what I ended up sharing with them, and I was very fortunate because I had somebody who I'd never met, Ryan, who was also there speaking, and we both shared about the fact, and it was Ryan, I'm quoting Ryan when he says, say why the heck, why not? Like, why not?
So one of the things
be open, receive. I'm not saying be uncalculating in the risks you take, but I think a lot more people are limiting themselves by saying, I don't know.
So I'll give you 2 reactions.
Yeah.
One is a couple of shows ago, we've actually over the last 10 years, we've only done 2 or 3 on this topic, which is improv. There are a variety of people who've worked in improv groups like the Groundlings or whatever, who now make their living teaching improv to corporations, of all things. It's a fun corporate team building thing. Let's all do an improvisational scene here. And the foundation, which I'd forgotten, as I took improv a million years ago, the foundation of improv is what? It's this. You say yes to everything. Instead of yes, but, you say yes, and. Yes, and. So the idea of improv is, okay, the scene is this. There's an alien. He walks into a room. Yes, and what? What does he do? No matter how absurd, you have to say yes to everything that's proposed by the audience or by whoever is leading the class, and then add to it. So you don't say yes, but that can't be. Yes, but I don't know how to be an alien. Yes, but we live life in the yes, but world. Yes, yes, yes. I get, Rod, that you're supposed to do this, but it's busy. I don't have time. I got commitments. Yes, but we always have a yes, but, and their theory is live life like one big improv acting class, one big improv session. Say yes to everything, and then immediately add to it.
And if you want to go do stand up, say yes to that. Like, what happened is 5 years ago I turned 50, and again, to Paul's point about milestone
50's a big one,
birthdays, right? I just said yes. I said yes to being a brand ambassador for Dave Welsh Bespoke Taylor.
Charitable work.
Which ended up meaning basically at the age of 50, I walked friggin' runway for a fashion show. I mean, what the heck is that all about,
you
right?
look like a runway kind of guy.
No,
Come on there.
maybe after 50, but not before, trust me, right? I just looked lanky before 50. But I mean, I said yes to that. I said yes to the show. This show for me has been really a journey.
Yeah.
And
much more than many of our other hosts.
Really a journey, and I've embraced that role. I've embraced that. I think next year I'd like to, starting the new decade, I would like to basically be a little less self-indulgent in my journey and let the people that are coming into the show basically be more the focus. But I really get excited. I genuinely, and if you've been a guest, I want to just say thank you for the last
fascinating people.
5 years, right?
I mean, it's been an eclectic journey. But that's your life. It is the Rad Life. The only thing that defines this show is this is what you find interesting, and this is what keeps you going. And it's about all your personal passions.
And in those moments when I'm basically indulging myself in finding out about somebody that maybe you may not find interesting, allow me the latitude, and I hopefully some of the shows that we basically bring you, some of the guests that we bring you, you do find not only just useful. I hate that word, but find meaningful. Like find something in there, right? That either resonates with you, affirms, gives you moment of pause to reflect. To
think. The one that reflected the most with me. You brought the guy in who's the artist, who taught art, as I recall, and then decided he was going to be an artist, and which he's going to be
Rick Delante or Tom Swim.
One of the two. I don't remember which one.
Was it the gentleman who had the location in Laguna Beach, or the guy who was the teacher then became a?
I think it was the guy in Laguna Beach.
Okay, that's the guy who was basically in Madison Avenue, Tom Swim, who was a very well-known artist.
And had to let go and said, I had to go home and tell my wife and my family and everything else, we're not going to make as much money because I'm going to follow my
I'm going to be a fine
muse.
Artist.
Yeah.
Fine artist.
Fine artist, right. Not just a commercial
illustrator or a commercial artist.
And that's a hard road. We're just going to drop out and follow your muse here. You're going to be a magician. You're going to be a singer. You're going to be a carpenter. You're going to do something that may not make you a lot of money here, but this is the passion, what's calling you. You're going to be a priest or whatever here.
And
so
wherever you find meaning, right?
Wow.
I mean, and wherever you find meaning. I know there's realities to life, and you have to basically be responsible. But you're not. I mean, I had a conversation today, and it's fascinating because if you had asked me 5 years ago. Definitely 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. How do you define yourself? I'd have said, well, I'm an interior designer.
Always.
Like my job was my definition.
Every man
right?
does that.
Right. I don't think I do that anymore this year. I think it's been maybe it took me too long at 54. Maybe I got to it faster than 65. I mean, who knows, right? But I really, my journey.
So what would you say to somebody? You're on an airplane. You strap in. Somebody says, "Hey, I'm Paul. We got a long journey ahead. Let's talk." And
you know what's the first thing I say right now to people?
I don't.
Well, it's a very good question you're asking me, and I don't know that I've ever been asked that question before recently. I say that I have a radio show.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Wow.
It's not because I'm bragging about having a radio show. Because I think there's a part of me that has genuine interest. And that feeds part of my soul.
Yes.
Interior design is something I do.
Right.
It's not who I am.
That's really interesting. 100 years ago, I was a restaurant writer for the Riverside Press Enterprise for a year or two. Fell into it, fun little gig, didn't get paid anything. They just basically reimburse you for the food and give you $100 or something to write a review. And they gave me the latitude to cover lots of crazy restaurants because I love going to restaurants. My favorite restaurant is the one I've never been to yet. I'm always looking over at the horizon. So at that time, I had a bar I owned, I had a PR firm. This is before I was doing the radio stuff. And I had a variety of things that in the world would sound successful. Mm-hmm. And when people would ask me what I do, I say, I'm a restaurant reviewer. And everybody would look at me like, how do you make a living? I say, I don't. But that's my first and foremost passion. I was proudest of that. I had more fun doing that. I didn't make any money at it.
So here's a question to start off or end this year with. End this decade with. Do you define yourself the same way today if I asked you or Paul asked you, what do you, not what do you do, who are you?
Yeah, right.
Okay, let's avoid the what do you do trap, okay, because that's pretty much like, oh, I do X.
Right.
Who are you?
Tell me about yourself, because that's the first question on most of our shows.
But just who are you?
Yeah.
Right? You're like, tell me about yourself.
Come in and tell me about who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were asked that 10 years ago, or if you're asked that today, would your answer be the same? I doubt that it would be, but that's really the point of this exercise is to ask ourselves, right?
And is it different?
Are you a
women?
father
Right.
before you are a businessman? In your own mind, not what the expectations are on you to define yourself, because that tends to sometimes be irrelevant to the setting.
You get to tell your own story.
Like you're in church, somebody says, well, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a devout Christian. I'm not talking about that. It's like when nobody's, like, you're asking yourself this question internally. Who are you?
If you came on Rod's radio show, the first minute or two is, all right, so introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you? So
right, and people know full well that when they, by now they should know that when they come in and I say that, I ask them that, and they start reading me their resume, I'm not letting go.
No, because you want to know.
I want to know more, right? Okay. At the very least, you can tell me how the heck you got to that.
Years and years ago, I went to therapy. I was having some tough times. I went to a therapist. Everybody should try that once, if not more. And
I agree.
The therapist said to me, most men define themselves by what they do. Most women define themselves by who they surround themselves with. I'm a mother, I'm a this, and yes, I'm a vice president for a bank. Most men would say I'm vice president for a bank.
Yeah,
I'm
but
a fireman,
I don't think,
whatever.
to be honest, I mean, I'm not picking on my sisters here, but I don't think either one is healthy. I mean, you're
I'm just saying,
what
right.
I'm saying is you're deriving your persona from your surroundings. You're not. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking who.
So here's a question on LinkedIn. LinkedIn gets you a question. You get to answer that question because you're supposed to put a little blurb about yourself, right?
Yeah, but it's a business setting, so it's already predetermined that it's going to.
Go look at mine. Mine says a raconteur and a teller of stories.
Right, but that's because you're basically in an environment where you basically tell stories. So there's part of it that's
so
professional.
that's why I found this
Right.
fulfilling.
Right, so
I
you
get
got
to
so you
listen
got,
to
so,
and tell stories.
So you got cute with your definition on LinkedIn. That's all you really did.
Okay.
You still filed a professional profile, right? So one of the things.
But I always saw myself as a storyteller. It wasn't until the last 10 years I made a living telling stories.
That's your decade.
Yeah, right. This decade
Right.
in many ways was the most.
And if I had asked you 10 years ago that you would be doing this for 10 years, you'd have looked at me and said, "What the heck have you been drinking?"
I was lost 10 years ago. I was lost in the wilderness. In my
And
mid-50s.
was your lost in the wilderness a sudden thing, or was it something that had been going on for a while? Was the fogginess there for a bit?
Yeah, I felt like I was in the long. I started off in the movie, so I'll use movie analogies. In the film business, I always loved films. I started in the film business as a press agent and some other things. I thought I was in that long fade to black. 55 was the beginning of
But
the
was
long
it
fade to black.
but was it age related only, or was it because the passion and connection with what you were doing was going?
Both. I think the age made me feel like there wasn't any other choice, that new opportunities weren't open to me. I really
How
felt that.
how calculated, Paul? I never asked you this question. How calculated? How calculated and strategic, or how much of a leap of faith, whatever, was your decision to set up this station?
I believed in it so much that I signed a whopping 6-month lease. I didn't think it would last. Wasn't sure it would last beyond 6 months.
So
That was 10 years ago.
you said yes.
I said yes. But I said yes because I was desperate. I had nothing else. Usually the leaps of faith in my life have been because I've been desperate.
Isn't that, I mean, I'm not knocking it because it's a very common repetitive pattern, right, for all of us. But isn't it interesting, right? And I had this conversation today with somebody, right? Isn't it interesting that when we basically are challenged, we put ourselves through all of this and we like pull ourselves up, right? Okay. So what if and we always say, what if it doesn't work out?
Oh yeah, but when you're desperate, you don't care.
But exactly.
You
But
don't
when
care.
we're not desperate, we're constantly saying, what if it doesn't work out? And we're talking ourselves out of taking the risk.
So I'll give you the other time it happened in my life. It's happened 2 or 3 times. 1984, I was a very hotshot young entertainment publicist.
Was that when the Japanese were bombing? No.
Pretty close. Right after Pearl Harbor. And I had made it. I was in the door. I was working for a big entertainment firm, a guy who's still around who represents creme de la creme. Robert De Niro, George Clooney, all these people. I was there, and I couldn't take it. I didn't care for the way the company was. I hated my job. I hated being there. I hated working for these people, everything about it. And I quit. And everybody's like, you took so long to get there, and you're going to throw it away. And I thought, anything's better than this. Anything's better than this. And I went back into my house, and my boss told me, you'll never make it. I remember him famously telling me this as he was leaving because he was mad I was leaving. My father telling me, actually my father was pretty supportive, but most people were like, you're nuts. You're going to give up. It took you so long to get here, and you're going to throw it away and do what? Just go start over again and be self-employed? I have never worked for anybody since 1984. Now, I didn't know it was going to last that long. I didn't know if it was a transition to something else.
But Paul, here's the thing, too, right?
But I was so unhappy,
Yeah.
I thought, anything's better than this.
Right.
And I didn't have many responses. I wasn't married and have kids. It was easy to take risks.
And people could look at where you're at today and say, well, what do you have really to show for it? I mean, you're
Right.
like, you've been doing all this stuff. Did you make all these bad decisions and all this stuff, right? And yeah, that may be the case, and it may be more of a struggle today than it may be for other people. But putting yourself always in the shoes of somebody else who at the moment looks like they're in greener pastures takes away from anything they were challenged with, what the future may bring.
I guess I'm just saying that in moments of desperation, you'll try anything, and if we would only try it when we're not desperate,
Right,
maybe.
right, and the one thing you can do, okay, is instead of just resting, to recharge your batteries, to go at it again. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is, who are you? Ask yourself that question. Who are you today versus 10 years ago? Okay? And what if you actually allowed yourself, gave yourself permission in your relationships, in your business ventures, in your hobbies, whatever it is, your health, your wellness, whatever it is. What if you actually allowed yourself the ability to reset? Not just rest, but reset.
That's kind of what I'm saying when you start over.
But you
it's a
reset it out of necessity. And what I'm saying is...
But you don't reset the computer until it crashes?
That's not true. You schedule it for regular maintenance every night.
You're
Rather
supposed
than
to, yeah.
maintaining,
Right.
you don't maintain the status quo.
But when you
maintain the system.
I just had to reset that laptop over there. I had to wipe out everything and go back to its original setting in the machine and lose everything that
You
was
could have
in
easily
there.
walked down to Staples and taken advantage of a deal that was going on for Christmas. Why didn't you do that, Paul? Why didn't you give up on the machine?
That's me. I never give up. I'm always trying to fix.
I don't know that that's a bad habit. In fact, I will
That's true.
I will tell you something. I
hate to throw away.
Not about throwing away. That's a little
Or
too
give up.
much, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you something. I'd rather have people that don't give up in my corner, that are plugging away at something, than all the people that have basically gotten to some sort of success and
It's too
basically
easy
are
to
just
quit.
sitting. Right. So there's two things. I wanted, because we've taken a lot of time.
Yes,
Paul, and it's
I
almost
got to
4
go to
o'clock,
and
right?
I got to go to
Okay.
mass tonight.
So this was
I'm a good Irish Catholic.
I'm going to share with you guys my Christmas wish that I put out for the company today. And,
Okay.
Here's what I wish you. May you unwrap something magnificent this Christmas.
Yeah, I saw that. You sent that as an email, and I'm on your list. And I thought, what a strange, unusual thing.
Okay.
Not happy holidays.
No. May you unwrap something magnificent this Christmas. This evening or tomorrow morning, as we gather to open gifts under the tree, most of us would agree, like we said before, that this time of year is truly magical, or can be. But before we shred through our carefully wrapped goodies, I want to take a minute and wish you the following. May each and every one of your days be magical. May you have magnificent money manifestation Mondays. Tremendous, thrilling, thriving Tuesdays. Wonderful wows Wednesdays. Especially if you're listening to the Raad Life.
Yes.
Okay. Thankful,
always a wow
transcendental,
day.
thought-provoking Thursdays. Because that's when you're remembering what you listen on the Raad Life, right? Fabulous, fierce Fridays. Sensational, sweet Saturdays. And splendid, sophisticated Sundays. May every one of your days be a powerful, beautiful opportunity for you to create your life's vision. May life be smooth, wonder-filled, spicy, and full of surprises. And may you always unwrap your present such that each and every one of your days shines with appreciation as you enjoy it to the fullest.
You mean the present moment we're in right now that we're exchanging with these people is, in fact, a present that we're giving them?
Exactly.
Wow. That's
Now,
pretty cool.
now go unwrap your magic. And for all those naysayers, here's to all the haters, to quote Leonardo DiCaprio. Right? Here's to all the haters, okay? Patience. There's more to come. Here's to a new year, a new decade. Thank you, Paul.
The best is yet to come. Frank Sinatra.
I don't think I can top that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Let me go play the music here.
Take us out.
Take this out.
Now go unwrap your magic, people. It's a new decade. Reset. I give you permission. Give it to yourself, too.
You have been listening to the Raad Life Radio Show with your host and age explorer, Rod Gantoos, brought to you on the one and only octalkradio.net. Join us again next week as we continue our journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older.